Hare Krishna. Text 3. Nigam kalpa taror galitam phalam Sukha mukhad amrita dravas samyutam Bipata Bhagavatam rasam alayam Muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. Synonyms: Nigam, the Vedic literatures. Kalpataro, the desire tree. Galitam, fully matured. Phalam, fruit. Suk, Srila Sukadev Goswami, the original speaker of Shrimadh Bhagavatam. Mukhad, from the lips of. Amrita, nectar. Drava, semi-solid and soft and therefore easily swallowable. Samyutam, perfect in all respects. Bibata, to relish it. Bhagavatam, the book dealing in the science of eternal relation with the Lord. Rasam, juice, that which is relishable. Alayam, until liberation or even in a hydrated condition. Muhu, always. Aho, o. Rasikaha, those who are in the full knowledge of mellows. Bhuvi, on the earth. Bhavukaha, expert and thoughtful. Translation: O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadev Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Purport: in the previous shlokas, it has been definitely proved that the Shrimad Bhagavatam is the sublime literature which surpasses all the other Vedic scriptures due to its transcendental qualities. It is transcendental to all mundane activities and mundane knowledge. In this shlok, it is stated that Shrimad Bhagavatam is not only a superior literature but is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. In other words, it is the cream of all Vedic knowledge. Considering all this, patient and submissive hearing is definitely essential. With great respect and attention, one should receive the message and lessons imparted by the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vedas are compared to the desire tree because they contain all things knowable by men. They deal with mundane necessities as well as spiritual realization. The Vedas contain regulated principles of knowledge covering social, political, religious, economic, military, medicinal, chemical, physical, and metaphysical subject matter, and all that may be necessary to keep the body and soul together. Above and beyond all these are specific directions for spiritual realization. Regulated knowledge involves a gradual raising of the living entity to the spiritual platform. In the highest spiritual realization is knowledge that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all spiritual taste or rasas. Every living entity, beginning from Brahma, the first born living being within the material world, down to the insignificant ant, desires to relish some of the taste derived from sense perceptions. These sensual pleasures are technically called rasas. Such rasas are of different varieties. In the revealed scriptures, the following 12 varieties of the rasas are enumerated. Number 1, Raudra or anger. Number 2, Adbhuta, wonder. 3, Shringar or conjugal love. 4, Hasya or comedy. 5, Veer or chivalry. 6, Daya or mercy. 7, Dasya or servitorship. 8, Sakhya or fraternity. 9, Bhayanak or horror. 10, Bhibhatsaha or shock. 11, Sant or neutrality, and 12, Vatsalya or parenthood. The sum total of these rasas is called affection or love. Primarily, such signs of love are manifested in adoration, service, friendship, paternal affection, and conjugal love. And when these 5 are absent, love is present indirectly in anger, wonder, comedy, chivalry, fear, shock, and so on. For example, when a man is in love with a woman, the ras is called conjugal love. But when such love affairs are disturbed, there may be wonder, anger, shock, or even horror. Sometimes love affairs between two persons culminate in ghastly murder scenes. Such rasas are displayed between man and between animal and animal. There is no possibility of an exchange or ras between a man and an animal, or between a man and any other species of living beings within the material world. The rasas are exchanged between members of the same species, but as far as the spirit souls are concerned, they are one qualitatively with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the rasas were originally exchanged between the spiritual living being and the spiritual whole, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual exchange or ras is fully exhibited in spiritual existence between living beings and the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore described in the Shruti mantras or Vedic hymns as the fountainhead of all rasas. When one associates with the Supreme Lord and exchanges one's constitutional ras with the Lord, then the living being is actually happy. These Shruti mantras indicate that every living being has its constitutional position, which is adored with a particular type of ras to be exchanged with the personality of Godhead. In the liberated condition only, this primary ras is experienced in full. In the material existence, the ras is experienced in the perverted form, which is temporary, and thus the rases of the material world are exhibited in the material form of Raudra or anger and so on. Therefore, one who attains full knowledge of these different races, which are the basic principles of activities, can understand the false representations of the original races which are reflected in the material world. The learned Shloka seeks to relish the real ras in the spiritual form. In the beginning, he desires to become one with the Supreme. Thus, less intelligent transcendentalist cannot go beyond this conception of becoming one with the spirit whole without knowing of the different rases. In this shlok, it is definitely stated that spiritual ras, which is released even in the liberated stage, can be experienced in the literature of the Shrimad Bhagavatam due to its being the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. By submissively hearing this transcendental literature, one can attain the full pleasure of his heart's desire, but one must be fully careful to hear the message from the right source. Shrimad Bhagavatam is exactly received from the right source. It was brought by Narad Muni from the spiritual world and given to his disciple Sri Vyasdev. The latter in turn delivered the message to his son Srila Sukadev Goswami, and Srila Sukadev Goswami delivered the message to Maharaja Parikshit just 7 days before the king's death. Srila Sukadev Goswami was a liberated soul from his very birth. He was liberated even in the womb of his mother, and he did not undergo any sort of spiritual training after his birth. At birth, no one is qualified, neither in the mundane nor in the spiritual sense. But Sri Sukadev Goswami, due to his being a perfectly liberated soul, did not have to undergo an evolutionary process for spiritual realization. Yet, despite his being a completely liberated person situated in the transcendental position above the three material modes, he was attracted to this transcendental ras of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by liberated souls who sing Vedic hymns. The Supreme Lord's pastimes are more attractive to liberated souls than to mundane people. He is of necessity not impersonal because it is only possible to carry on transcendental ras with a person. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are narrated, and the narration is systematically depicted by Srila Sukadev Goswami. Thus, the subject matter is appalling to all classes of persons, including those who seek liberation and those who seek to become one with the Supreme Whole. In Sanskrit, the parrot is also known as suk. When a ripened fruit is cut by the red beaks of such birds, its sweet flavor is enhanced. The Vedic fruit, which is mature and ripe in knowledge, is spoken through the lips of Srila Sukadev Goswami, who is compared to the parrot not for his ability to recite the Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from his learned father, but for his ability to present the work in a manner that would appeal to all classes of men. The subject matter is so presented through the lips of Srila Sukadev Goswami that any sincere listener that hears submissively can at once relish transcendental tastes which are distinct from the perverted tastes of the material world. The ripened fruit is not dropped all of a sudden from the highest planet of Krishna Lok, rather it has come down carefully through the chain of disciplic succession without change or disturbance. Foolish people who are not in the transcendental disciplic succession commit great blunders by trying to understand the highest transcendental ras known as the Ras dance without following in the footsteps of Sukadev Goswami, who represents this fruit very carefully by stages of transcendental realization. One should be intelligent enough to know the position of Shrimad Bhagavatam by considering personalities like Sukadev Goswami, who deals with the subject so carefully. This process of disciplic succession of the Bhagavat school suggests that in the future, also Shrimad Bhagavatam has to be understood from a person who is factually a representative of Srila Sukadev Goswami. A professional man who makes a business out of reciting the Bhagavatam illegally is certainly not a representative of Sukadev Goswami. Such a man's business is only to earn his livelihood. Therefore, one should refrain from hearing the lectures of such professional men. Such men usually go to the most confidential part of the literature without undergoing the gradual process of understanding this grave subject. They usually plunge into the subject matter of the Ras dance, which is misunderstood by the foolish class of men. Some of them take this to be immoral, while others try to cover it up by their own stupid interpretations. They have no desire to follow in the footsteps of Srila Sukadev Goswami. One should conclude, therefore, that the serious student of the Ras should receive the message of Bhagavatam in the chain of disciplic succession from Srila Sukadev Goswami, who describes the Bhagavatam from its very beginning and not whimsically to satisfy the mundana who has very little knowledge in transcendental science. Shrimad Bhagavatam is so carefully presented that a sincere and serious person can at once enjoy the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge simply by drinking the nectarian juice through the mouth of Sukadev Goswami or his bona fide representative. Hare Krishna.